Hey everybody, it's Christina, the Tarot Biz Mentor, here from the Profitable Psychic Divination and Business Academy. Welcome everybody to today's live stream. I hope that you guys are doing well. Hope you had a great weekend and that you've had a chance to kind of catch up on some of the trainings we've been doing here in the Profitable Psychic group on Facebook. Let me just get to where I can see comments. And if you're here and you can see and hear me okay, hey, let me know. Let me know where you are listening from. Okay, so we are continuing on in our psychic mediumship training today. So far, we have done trainings on what are some signs that you have psychic mediumship abilities, like how does it kind of come about? What is it? What do you experience? We've also talked about how to protect yourself while you're opening up your psychic medium abilities. We talked about creating guardian spirits. We've talked about psychic hygiene, things of that nature. And then last week, we talked about how to get in a trance, how to get in a trance-like state to enter liminal space in order to elicit psychic experiences. And so today we're going to be talking, kind of continuing on that conversation of different things that can kind of happen to you while you are in a psychic trance. And we're going to talk specifically more about such things like how to do the out-of-body experiences, how to, what is the astral realm, what even is an out-of-body experience, how do you access the astral realm. We're going to talk a little bit about lucid dreaming, how to do lucid dreaming. We're also going to be talking about some of the ways that we can access different dimensions, with the astral realm just being one of those dimensions. We'll even touch upon a little bit about some things like shamanic journeying and what kind of different dimensions exist and why might we want to access certain dimensions. So it's going to be, we're going to have a lot of fun today. Okay, so first of all, I just want to kind of introduce myself, especially if you are new here. Hi, my name is Christina Quick. I'm also known as the Tarot Biz Mentor on YouTube. And I've been a psychic business mentor now for 12 years. I've been self-employed as a psychic for 12 years now. I have an academy. Hi, Leah. I have an academy called the Profitable Psychic Business and Divination Academy. I mainly teach marketing, but I also teach psychic development, and I've been teaching psychic development for years and years and years now. That is one of my favorite things to teach. And hi, Paula. Hi, Gemma. Good to see you guys. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for letting me know that you're here and that you're interested in our talk today. So let me just ask you guys a question, just see like where everybody's experience is at. Does everybody here, have you guys actually experienced a out-of-body experience? Do you guys have experience with the astral realm and doing any type of astral projection? Can you guys remember the first time that you did astral projection? And hi, Davine, good to see you. Many, okay. Good. So there's some of you in here who are experienced. So I just want to talk about one of the first couple astral projection experiences that I have had in my life and just kind of how it can show up in different ways. And there's lots of people here who have lots of amazing stories. So I would love for them to share their stories either here on the post in the live as a comment or just posting in the group and just share your stories with us. We love psychic stories, right? Psychic story time is the best. So I remember when I first started astral projecting, it kind of went hand in hand with sleepwalking for me, where I would be a very, very young child, and I was maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. And I remember I would be dreaming, but I would be also in a different place. I would know that I would be like, the way that I can describe an out-of-body experience really is kind of like in a dream, but you know you're dreaming and you know you're in between these spaces. Like a lot of your mental brain and your logical side of your brain knows that you're dreaming, that you're in this other space, but there's a realness to us. There's a crispness to us. You can hear things, you can see things, and it's almost kind of like being inside of a movie. You guys know when you have those dreams where it's kind of like you're watching yourself as a character within a dream. A lot of the time, sometimes we have dreams where we are not the main character, where we are the observer watching. Yes, there's going to be a replay, Paula. Yes. The earliest memory I have in OEB OBE was during my first near-death experience at age 6. Wow, yeah. So OBEs can definitely be some sort of trauma induction kind of experience, absolutely. And actually, speaking about trauma, um, when you have issues with disassociating from reality, a lot of the times that is an out of body experience. And we kind of talked about when we were talking about last week, we talked about trance induction. We were talking about different ways you can do that. And so I was talking about like you can rattle, you can drum, you can sing, you can chant, you can meditate, whatever however you get into your psychic trance to where you are receptive to the psychic information that's coming through, whatever it's, if you're doing a mediumship reading or any other type of psychic reading, right? You can have a couple different situations arise. So one of the first situations that can arise is that you kind of have this sinking into the ground kind of feeling where you feel heavy, like you feel like your body kind of is like melting into the ground, and it kind of feels like your body then becomes part of the ground. And that's like a grounding experience. You can experience that most of the time. You're going to experience that like during a Reiki healing session if you're having it performed on you, or if you're doing yoga and you're in Shavasana, corpse pose, right? So at the end, the very end, where you have that like deepening experience, there's that. And then there's another experience that a lot of us will have where it's more of a floating experience, where we start to feel like we're actually coming up out of our body and we're floating up and up and up and up and up. Now, both of those are out of body experiences. You're just going to different realms, okay? So in core shamanism, and there is an argument for core shamanism. Now, I know a lot of people are polarized when it comes to core shamanism concepts, because a lot of core shamanism is it's incomplete really because it's not tradition based. So say in certain traditions, you might have a certain cosmology, a certain map of the universe or the realms or the dimensions within the universe. If you're a Kabbalist, then you maybe follow the tree of life and the 10 Sephiroth, okay? If you are from the Nordic traditions, perhaps you follow more of Yggdrasil, the world tree, and the 9 worlds of there. And so that's just one example. If you follow more of a South American kind of tradition, you may follow more of a directional teaching where the worlds or the dimensions are in different directions, say north, south, east, and west, so on and so forth, up, down. I think what most of us will agree on, though, is at least a 3 to 4 world classic view. And that tends to be something that what is core shamanism anyway? Core shamanism is when you take all of the different types of traditions that are out there that are based in shamanistic practices. What are they all distilled down to? Right. And in some ways it's harmful because we talk about things like cultural appropriation and things like that. And, trying to work within a shamanic tradition means working within that cosmology of that tradition. Well, the argument that I have for core shamanism on why it is helpful is because shamanism, you have to understand that the shamanistic worldview, not just shamanism, but animistic, but also just this worldview that there are several different dimensions. What am I really talking about here? So the worldview that there are many dimensions, different realms of existence, right? What it comes from is it's born out of a necessity of our ancestors to understand the world around us. So they didn't have science, but they had cosmology. And they would understand that certain realms might be dedicated to storms and weather, and certain realms might be dedicated to harvesting and crops and planting things and agriculture, right? It's kind of like an even more primitive view, primordial view of gods and goddesses, because before there was, and for a lot of shamanistic traditions, in actuality, their cosmology and their pantheons, their gods and goddesses, their creator gods, their origin stories are intertwined. And so for a lot of shamanic traditions, their cosmology is from their ancestors. For example, in the Nordic tradition, the Norse pantheon, they were all made from basically a giant, that then the giant became the world, right? The legs became the mountains, and the eyes became this, so on and so forth. The blood became the water, and so on and so forth. So you have to understand, in a lot of shaman cosmology and origin stories, their gods and goddesses are, and their spirits. We can even look at like like the Loa, or even in voodoo traditions where, you know, they have certain elevated ancestral spirits that are not just gods and goddesses, but they're actual ancestral venerated spirits. Okay. So I say this because before there were gods and goddesses and elevated, you know, personhoods, like say extended masters, saints, you know, that sort of thing, where Buddhas, and where we would give people a certain extended kind of status. What did we have before then? We had the natural realm. Okay. We had trees and waters and ponds and lakes and rivers, and all of these things would have a spirit within them that could be worked with, that could be petitioned, that we could make offerings to, that we could do divination with, right? And so the job of the shaman, or the medium, the psychic medium in that case, was to be a conduit of communication between the village, the tribe, the town, and the spirits of the natural world. And so this idea was born, this cosmology was born, that they don't necessarily exist on this same plane of existence as we do, but the shaman's purpose was to journey through astral projection, to project their spirit out to the realms, dimensions in which these spirits might exist, to communicate with them, and to also bring back knowledge, right? Knowledge that would help the village. Oh, really? Ivy says, perfect explanation. Thank you. I'm sure you're talking about the OBE. Gemma says, I floated about 20 feet above the car as my mother was rushing me to the emergency room. Very, very, very interesting. Gemma says, my mother and I lived in a very small efficiency apartment, and her boyfriend wanted some alone time with her. So he injected me with a sedative, and it turned out to be over 4 times their regular dose. I OD'd. Interesting. The second I consciously wanted to see inside the car, the roof of it just seemed to dissolve, and I could see my body laying on the back seat of the car and my mother driving. That's really, I have a lot to say about that. That's a lot to unpack. But when we're talking about OBEs and we're talking about the astral realm, so okay, let me get back to the worlds and how this kind of applies to what I'm trying to explain now. So in core shamanism, we have a main 3 to 4 worlds, okay, 3 to 4 dimensions. I say worlds, but what I really mean are dimensions, portals, alternate planes of existence, okay, realms, dimensions, whatever. It's all the same thing, all the same kind of word to just kind of describe intangible places that our spirit can visit. So in core shamanism, we have 3 core worlds. We have the upper world, we have the middle world, and we have the lower world. Now, I say that because if you look at Yggdrasil, the Tree of Life, or you look at Kabbalah, you'll kind of notice that in Kabbalah, there's the supernal triangles, there's the triangles, right? That the upper, the middle, and the lower triangles, and that. If you look at Yggdrasil, there's those two. So you can really look at most cosmologies have some sort of tree shape to them, and they also have some kind of elongated kind of shape to them. All right. Even if you think about the directions, the 4 directions at the center, and then you have the 4 different directions that relate to different realms. Like one realm might be the realm of the dead. One realm might be the realm of venerated spirits. One realm might be the realm of animal spirits, power animals, that sort of thing, spirit allies. One realm might be protective spirits and gods and goddesses and things like that. But in core shamanism, we have the upper worlds, we have the middle worlds, and we have the lower worlds. And then on top of that, we have the astral realm. The astral realm is what we can consider to be a holographic copy of our universe. And so when you're saying, Gemma, that you could, like, you had a lucid point when you were having your out-of-body experience where you were floating up, right? That you were able to kind of control the perspective in which you were able to view, right? And so that's something that's unique to the astral realm is that it exists outside of time and space. Now, very, very, very simple. Don't overcomplicate this. If you can, and you're not like driving or something like that, if you can close your eyes for a moment and you can visualize the room around you, the things around you that are next to you, if you have a peripheral vision in your mind's eye of where things are and whether you can kind of see without seeing where things are, that in itself is astral projection. You are astrally projecting. It doesn't have to be complicated. There are levels to astral projection, and there are I say levels, but there are different skills and tricks that you can do in astral projection. But that is astral projection, where you're able to maintain the universe as a thought form within your head. So if you work with Wicca, or you work with witchcraft, and you work with like thought forms, like things like creating your own protective guardians, or casting spells, or creating your own gods and goddesses, or creating your own types of beings, that is working within the astral realm. That is where those thought forms exist. So astral realm is really full of so many things. It's full of the world as it was in the past, being able to think back in memory. That's accessing the astral realm. Thinking of things how they are right now in the present moment, thinking of things how they are in the future. Within the astral realm also exists the thought form version of ourselves, the version of ourselves that we think we're projecting out. In the astral realm exists things like our values, our thoughts, our beliefs, our ethics, all of these intangible things that create the beings that we are. Okay, we're very complex creatures, so we have a lot of information stored in the astral realm. You may have also heard this described as the Akashic records. It's just another word. And this morning when we were in class in the luxurious lightworker program, we were talking about how to create your own psychic reading process. And we were talking about the Akashic records earlier in there, and we were talking about epigenetics and ancestral cellular memory, where the Akashic records are not only an astral place where you can shamanic journey to visit and to ask for information, to ask for guidance, but it's also located within ourselves, within our DNA, right? So it's something that exists in the physical. Everything in the astral exists in the physical and vice versa, but the astral exists outside of linear space and time. So yeah, Gemma says, I equate the astral realm with the Akash, or the Akashic records. Yes. This could also be associated like Shakti, or prana, or chi. There's a lot of different words for it. And it's a very physical energy, but it kind of exists, and it's just kind of floating all around us at all times. And so what we really do when we are astral journeying is we are stepping into that realm to receive some sort of knowledge, to receive some sort of wisdom. Okay. So how can we do that? Well, we can do that in a multitude of ways. But I would say the most common form of ways that we do this is when we dream, right? So dreaming is a natural way that we access the astral realms. We access the thought forms within us, whether that's a stress dream and we're playing out in astral, because what are stress dreams? They're preparation for the real thing, right? So when we have a stress dream and say we're not necessarily stressed or having a lot of things going on in our life, but we have a stress dream, what that is it's our mind putting us into this real situation in an unreal place and letting us play out that scenario so that we can learn, and that we could take that wisdom back. So if that were to happen to us in real life, we would already have a practice mechanism in place for that. Okay. So dreaming so not just stress dreams, but good dreams too. And last week I said I was going to start asking for flying dreams. I've had 3 flying dreams in the last week alone. So what I'm trying to say here is that you can control your dreams. And if the first step to being able to have an out-of-body experience and have a lucid out-of-body experience, because we all have out-of-body experiences. That's what dreaming is. That's what meditation is. That's what visualization is. That's what remote viewing is. That's what all that stuff is. But if we want to start having a lucid experience with that in dreaming, then we have to start kind of trying to take control of that reality. Everyone does it when we dream, but not everyone realizes or remembers it. And that's important too, Gemma. Like, not everybody remembers it, right? And I do believe very firmly that as you go forward and as you, utilize the methods that I'm teaching you about, constantly asking if you're dreaming, looking around about once an hour and looking at your environment and asking if you're dreaming, asking if it's real, you will. And so, for my brain, I've been able to do the flying dreams, but I have yet to be able to tap into the lucidity of that flying dream where I can actually take control and I can go wherever I want with it, right? So a lot of the times when we have OBEs, we kind of feel like we're flying. That tends to be one of the main iconographies of like having an out of body experience. If you look at like the old school witches on broomsticks, that was a motif of astral travel, of dreaming, right? So it's everywhere and you see it everywhere. So if you want to start doing this where you're actually very lucid, the first point is to start trying to remember your dreams, right? Because that's where you're astral traveling the most. Now, I remember when I was very young and I would have these dreams, and that's where it would come to me first, would be in dreams. That's where mostly it comes to people first, in dreams. And I would be dreaming that I was in like this magical forest and there's all these creatures and rabbits and squirrels and raccoons, but they were like not like real. They were like fantasy creatures. They'd be like different colors and sparkling or a rainbow or something like that. And I would be running around chasing them, but in my real life, I would be up walking around doing sleepwalking. So if you or your children do a lot of sleepwalking, chances are they are astral traveling, right? We tend to think of astral traveling as like this thing where we're just sitting here and, we're out into space. And for a lot of people, it does look like that. But there's also astral traveling during physical active meditation, during yoga, during exercise. If you're running, if you're a runner or you're a walker, you've all had that experience where you've left your body and you're walking, you're just on autopilot, you're aware that you're walking, but your brain and your spirit is off doing other things, right? That's astral traveling. Now, where it becomes really something like profound and useful is when you start utilizing it with a set intention. So first step is to start recording your dreams, to start the lucid dreaming process. This lucid dreaming process is so simple. All you do about once an hour is you just stop what you're doing whenever you remember. You can set a timer, but really it's just whenever you remember, because if you do it whenever you remember, that's the most organic way to do it. And so that's the most natural way to do it. And so you want that natural point when you're dreaming to come about when you stop and you look around and you say, is this real? Is this real life? And I remember the other morning, I was coming out of a dream. My husband was leaving for work and he bent down to give me a kiss because I went back to bed. And he was leaving to go to the office, and he bent down to give me a kiss. And he said, I asked him, is this real life? And he said, yes, it's real life. And I said, okay. And I went back to my dream. So what I'm trying to say is that if you do this lucid dreaming questioning process where you question yourself, am I dreaming? Is this real? Is this real life? You will start doing it in your dreams, and you will start doing it when you're in betwixt that dreaming state and that awake state is what we call the liminal space, liminal space. It's also the astral realm. I love lucid dreaming, and flying is like one of the first things I do in lucid dreaming. Yeah, me too. I love flying. Have you ever had the dreams where you're swimming? Those are cool too, where you're underwater, but you can breathe. It's really neat. So now, how do we switch this over from something that's just kind of fun to do and something fun to play with and just fun to play with our psychic abilities and turn it into something that's actually going to help people or turn it into part of our psychic toolbox? Well, that you swim in the air in lucid dreams. I do that too. And I remember in one of my dreams that I was flying last week that I was like, if I just put on a mermaid tail, I could just swim through the air, So maybe I'll have a dream where I'm actually a mermaid and swimming through the air. That would be so cool. So it becomes down to your intention. So let's say you're going to do a psychic reading. All right. You're going to do a psychic reading. And this morning we were talking about this in the student group over in the Lux Light Worker. We were talking about how to basically send and project your energy out. So for a lot of us, let's say we're working on the lucid dreaming, we're working on remembering our dreams, we're doing all of that in the background, we're doing that work. But now we're in our business and we're with a client now, and so we actually have to use this in a professional way. So we have a client that we're doing the mediumship reading with, or just doing a basic reading. You don't have to do a mediumship reading, but we're just doing a basic reading, and we're going into our trance. We're rattling, we're drumming, we're chanting, we're doing whatever we need to do to activate those delta waves in order to get more into a receptive state to what's going on. So we're doing that, and then we get to that point, and so now it becomes a matter of how are you making that connection with that psychic target. So you can do this astrally. So kind of what you want to do is you kind of want to close your eyes and you want to sort of envision the astral realm. Now, this may not look like the regular universe in front of you. This may not look like what's actually in your room. You may see something totally different. It may be a totally, completely different place that you're imagining. It may be having different colors. Maybe it has different textures. Maybe it has different light sources. Maybe there are, instead of physical objects, maybe there are electromagnetic fields around objects that you can visualize, right? So seeing the auras exist, electromagnetic fields, they all exist within the astral realm. So that's what we're really doing. We're finding what we want to send our energy to, and then we are projecting our energy out. So it may be helpful for you to visualize a flying scenario. You can visualize a flying scenario if that helps you. A lot of people envision flying when they're going on an astral journey. Some people may visualize swimming. Some people may visualize going up and up and up and up, like into the clouds, and going up above that, above the stratosphere, the atmosphere, into outer space. Okay, you may visualize that. Some people may visualize more going towards into the earth, maybe going into like a cavern or a hole within the earth and going deeper and deeper and deeper into the earth. Again, this depends on what is your tradition and what is your method and what are you trying to understand. So again, this kind of goes back to the three worlds. So within the upper world is thoughts, exist thought forms such as things like angels, gods and goddesses, unless they're, an origin god or goddess, then a creator god and goddess, then that might exist in the lower world, depends on your ideology. In the upper world might also exist things like Buddhas and ascended masters and saints and people that have been kind of venerated, right? This could also be celestial spirits, star energies, star allies, planetary allies, extraterrestrials, the Council of Light. There's a lot of thought forms that can exist in that upper world. And everybody's going to have a different cosmology, a different map of where those things exist. In the middle world, this is basically where we live. And by the way, your map, your cosmology depends on who you are. If you are a raccoon, your cosmology map is going to be a little different than a human, right? So we based our upper world map. We based our maps based on who we are and what is our importance in the universe. What is our job in the universe? So as humans, we tend to be the caretakers, the guardians of this earth, right? We tend to have a big responsibility. We tend to have a big influence. So we might see in the middle world, the goings on of our society, the goings on of our culture, the goings on of our religions that are present, things like government, the ideas of things like government, of law and order, and morals and ethics and values and physicalness of how we present ourselves, the physical reality, right? Of where we operate on a more immediate basis. Our job, our children, our parents, our pets, things that require an immediate day-to-day sort of responsibility. This is all the middle world. The lower world can be such things as the dead. It can be our ancestors. It could be ancestors as far as animal ancestors. It could be plant ancestors. It could be fungi ancestors. It could be mammalian ancestors. It could be reptilian ancestors. Okay. But it's also what we would call maybe the unconscious world, the trees, the rivers, the ponds. You might consider this to be the fairy realm, okay? where your spirit helpers, where your power animals, things like that may live. Things that have a consciousness, they have a program within them, they have a spirit within them, but they don't necessarily have a free will. Okay. Does that make sense? Hey, good to see you, Renee. Glad you can make it. Gemma says, I was blown away by this one Buddhist sutra teaching called The Root Sequence of All Things, which describes the journey to full realization and talks about the different realms, realms with goddesses and gods, and beings of various dimensions. It totally blew my mind. Yeah, so there's a lot of people, a lot of traditions all have, their thoughts on what this is. And so that's kind of what the three worlds are. And then the astral realm is everything. The astral realm encompasses everything. Again, it's like the holographic version of our universe, which it can be anything at any time. It's kind of like a sandbox, right? It's just a sandbox and it can be anything. And the things that we do on the astral realm, they do matter, but they don't matter as much as, say, the physical realm. The astral realm is really a realm of information, isn't it? So it's really more like if you're a psychic medium, you're going to that astral realm in order to elicit some sort of information, to bring back to the middle world, right? In order to relay that teaching, to relay that wisdom. So if you're doing a reading on, say, someone's love life, and you're a psychic medium and you want to do a psychic medium reading on the spirit of that person's love life, then you might do an out-of-body experience, a trance-like experience where you might shamanic journey, travel and visualize yourself traveling to wherever in the cosmos the spirit of that relationship may be, and then communing with it, communicating with it, getting it psychic information from it, reading its aura, seeing certain things that you can see while you're in the astral realm would be things like the aura, colors around the aura, illnesses, sicknesses. You could also see psychic parasites. You can see cords of attachment. You can see their ancestors. You can see their spirit helpers. You can see all of the, high vibe and low vibe spirits that are around that person, place, or thing. So when we think about doing a mediumship reading, we tend to think of reading for people that have passed on. But in reality, you can do a psychic mediumship reading on anything, the spirit that is contained with anything. And so when you are communing with this spirit, you're gathering the knowledge to bring back. And that's why it is called shamanic journey, because you're projecting your spirit out to read psychically about that thing, coming back to your body, and then relaying that information. Okay. So one other time I had a really interesting OBE. And so, you may be thinking, you might be kind of disappointed in that having an out-of-body experience is a very conscious thing, meaning you know that you're doing it and it's not just happening to you. And it's not quite like you are just thrust out there. It's very much like there's two things going on at the same time. You're very much here, but you're very much out there. And a lot of people will just say, oh, well, it's just visualization, and visualization might be part of it. But, as I was saying in class earlier today in Lux Lightworker, why do we visualize? Because sight is one of our possibly our most important information gathering sense, right? And we're talking about like if someone was born blind, then perhaps their clairaudience, their psychic hearing might actually be the way that they shamanic journey. They may, instead of visualizing themselves traveling, physically traveling, whether that's flying, swimming, walking, being sucked to a place, however you visualize it, they may be listening and hearing and going in the direction of what they're hearing. So whatever your psychic senses are, those will lead you. They will lead you through that journey is what I'm trying to say. All right. So that's why we visualize. And so you may be a little bit disappointed to realize that you close your eyes and you're already, in the astral realm. But during the dreaming space is where you're going to have more of those, I think, profound metaphysical experiences. So I remember when I was very young, a teenager, probably 12, 13 years old, I was experimenting with belladonna and experimenting to make my own flying ointment. So in witchcraft, we have this thing called flying ointment, which is basically where you take psychedelic, hallucinogenic kind of plants that and you distill them into, say, an oil or a tincture or something like that, and then you apply it to the body, and then you can induce some sort of psychedelic experience or hallucinogenic experience. And a lot of times plant medicine and plant therapy is definitely a way that you can elicit these experiences. So people feel a certain way about it. I'm very pro plant energy. So whether you like to utilize psilocybin, whether you like to use THC, cannabis, whether you like to use peyote, whether you like to use anything. I mean, even frankincense and myrrh, even mugwort is psychoactive. Okay, so chances are you're already burning psychoactive herbs and things. You don't even know it, right? Or some people might choose to participate in drinking alcohol or something like that to elicit these experiences. And I don't have a negative judgment about that in any way, shape, or form, because this is something that has actually been utilized for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. Plant medicine, plant allies have been utilized to help shamans do astral traveling and astral journeying for thousands and thousands of years. Okay, so it's one gift that has been given to us in order to facilitate these experiences. Now, I remember when I was messing around with belladonna the first time, and I made an ointment, and then the typical protocol was to put it right here, right here, and right here, and right here. And then you could put it on your ankles too. But it was basically to anoint your neck, your ankles, and your feet. And I remember I was really disappointed. I didn't really have a lot of experiences with belladonna in my waking life, but one time I did do it when I fell asleep. And I remember in my dream I was sleeping, but I didn't know that I was sleeping. I remember rolling over and falling off my bed. And when I got up and looked over, I was able to see my body was actually sleeping there. And as soon as I had that realization, I slapped back into my body. So astral travel, like real psychic, metaphysical, bilocation astral travel, usually can only really happen in a dream state. If you are someone that, say, like, Gemma was talking about the Buddhist monks. Well, monks spend 22 hours of their life meditating, right? So they do this for a living. This is their one thing that they do. And so that they're constantly sleeping, basically. And so when they're constantly in this dreamlike state, they can elicit these very significant metaphysical types of astral travel experiences. But for most of us who have a job, who have kids, who have parents, and can't spend 22 hours a day meditating, are going to typically have these more profound experiences in sleep time. Okay. And so that's why I talk about dreaming so much. And I think it's so important, because if you can master this in your sleeping, then it will translate over into your conscious life. And then eventually you will be able to have that dialogue going on between your subconscious and your consciousness. And you will be able to utilize these skills at will. Okay. Yeah. Gemma says humanity has forgotten how to connect with our higher selves and the divine. But I feel part of this massive shift that we are undergoing will help us remember how to do this. Yes, we're coming back to it, certainly. And there have been times where, it's waxed and it's waned and it's waxed and it's waned. But right now we are definitely coming back into that more natural kind of relationship with our spirituality, where it's not just science and it's not religion. It's something in between, something beautiful and harmonious in between, our most natural state, where science and religion kind of coexist together. And they're not the same thing. They will never be the same thing. And they don't always have the same protocols that go along with them. But there is a relationship that, we don't have to understand everything on an intellectual level, especially when it comes to brain science and when it comes to the noetic sciences, like, psychic abilities, out of body experiences, alien abduction, things like that. These things that we can't necessarily explain through science. And, we have to lend on spirituality. But I feel like at a certain point, spiritual sciences is a completely legit type of science. And it's a way that we can ultimately, what are we all doing this for? Yeah, it's fun, but ultimately we're doing this to heal ourselves. We're doing this to heal other people. And we're doing this to, make the world a better place, to bring everybody else into harmony with their whatever, whether they're buying a house and they want a mediumship reading on the land to make sure that it's not cursed or there's no psychic parasites or anything like that. Or they're doing, you're doing a relationship reading and you're seeing the spirit of the relationship, talking to the spirit of the relationship, whether you are talking to someone on the other side who has passed and you're being a physical medium for the other person and relaying those messages so they can heal. But what it really is it's all just a method to become in harmony with the universe, to become in harmony with all three worlds, to be able to navigate, access all of these different worlds, and to help one another to do things that we can't do on our own, right? So that is out of body experiences. What they are is it's basically you are in the astral realm, right? And it exists outside of space and time. So because it exists outside of space and time, you can access different types of information. You can access the past, you can access the present, you can access parallel realities, you can access the future, all within the astral space, right? So say when we're doing Akashic Records type of readings, we're doing, mediumship, but it's a kind of in the past, right? Like, what is my soul contract? So that's what most people go to the Akashic Records for in the beginning, is to understand their soul contract, to understand like what is their past life, what were their past lives, what are things that they need to work on in this life, basically what is their karma and dharma, right? What is their fate, destiny, kismet? What are they supposed to be doing? What are their spiritual gifts? How are they supposed to help other people? And what is their legacy, right? And so that's another way of accessing the astral realm, being able to access that information. And all of us are going to visualize it in a different way. I might visualize the Akashic Records. You might visualize accessing computers. Someone else might visualize speaking with, say, a deer and having a conversation with a power animal. Some people might visualize having a conversation with a god or goddess or a guardian angel, or receiving wisdom from their ancestors and talking with their ancestors, right? So how it looks on the astral realm is basically, what is your thought form of the astral realm? How do you think the astral realm looks, right? And it's really just the only limit to the astral realm is your imagination and what you can visualize, okay? So to recap this training today, do your dream journaling. Start your lucid dreaming process where you're asking every time you remember consciously, is this real? Am I dreaming? So that eventually you will be able to take control of your dreams and have mediumship experiences, intentional and purposeful mediumship experiences in your dreams, rather than just fun out of body experiences. How can we use this in a spiritual way to further our spiritual evolution and our development, right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to start, and this is a practice that you can do wherever you are. So wherever you are, if you want to start becoming more connected with the astral realm, wherever you are, say you're in a library, you're at school, or you're at home, you're in your living room, you're outside, take a moment to close your eyes and reconstruct the entire space within your mind's eye. This will help you with your clairvoyance. This will help you get faster with your clairvoyance. And this will help you create sort of like a map in your mind of your own cosmology. And let me explain this to you, because yes, I work within certain worlds. I work within certain cosmologies, the upper, the middle, the lower worlds. Yes, I work within those worlds. But in my dreams, I have my own cosmology of where things are. And my astral space in my dreams is a city. Is a city that does not exist, but it exists within my brain. And whenever I am in the astral realm within this city, I can go to certain locations, and the way I get there is always the same. Like if you give me a piece of paper and you give me a pen, I can draw out my city. Like I can draw where this is, where this is, where this is, where this is. There's certain mountains and topographical things, but this is something I've had to develop over years and years and years of doing lucid dreaming training, of doing out of body experiences and things like that. If you struggle with eliciting your own out of body experience, my recommendation for you is to get with the shamanic practitioner. Get with someone who does hypnosis and ask them to help you elicit an out of body experience. Typically, this can be through some sort of guided meditation, some sort of guided imagery, things like that. Okay, so that will help you. And sometimes you have to rely on that, because I remember in the beginning, I could not visualize. In the beginning, I didn't really have very strong clairvoyance. I wasn't able to refabricate things in my mind on the astral realm very easily. And so I used to go to yoga, and I had this one great yoga teacher who was fantastic. And she was also a shaman. And after every class, she would lead us through a guided visualization to just a different made up world, a different planet, a different place in the earth, wherever, back to our childhood, back to certain memories. And she was so good at it. And that's really why I think I'm so good at it, is because I trained and I allowed another shamanic mentor to walk me through this process until I felt it's like riding a bicycle and you're riding the three wheels. You know, you have your training wheels on the back. Sometimes you got to do that before you can actually elicit your own out of body experiences on command and be able to do that effectively and efficiently to a point where you can actually do it for money and do it as a service for other people. So we are at about 45 minutes in. I want to know, does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have anything? I know it's this is, you know, a very, very complex topic, and there's a lot of different moving parts to this. But we're going to continue on in this series, and we're going to keep talking about it. And I would really like to next week talk about auras, talk about the different layers to the aura, talk about what can be found within an aura, how to do an aura reading, because mediums, when we are as psychic mediums, as shamans, when we are connecting with other spirits, we're connecting with the psychic thought form of that spirit. We're talking about auras. We're talking about electromagnetic fields. Remember, energy doesn't disappear. It just changes. So that energy, that aura, that electromagnetic field had to go somewhere. And I believe it's out there. I believe it exists in the astral realm. I believe we can communicate with it, that we can talk to it as a spirit that has a consciousness, and we can relay that information back to our clients. Gemma says, a lot of budding psychics don't realize the exercise of these skills like visualization is helpful in and of itself, and you don't have to have a spiritual or paranormal experience every time you work on visualizing. Yeah, and that's so true. That is so true. So you're going to have your profound metaphysical experiences. Those are going to happen. Your synchronicities, they're going to come. But a lot of it is mundane training too. So don't forget about your training. Don't forget about the work involved. Make sure that you're doing the actual work, and you will find that as you do the work, you will become more in sync. You will become more in what we call harmony, or what we call right relationship with the worlds around you, with the spirits around you. And when you do, they will be more willing to show you and to allow you to experience and to have those profound psychic experiences. And we have to kind of realize that those are privileges and those are gifts that our spirits give us, right? And there's something that we can seek out, but ultimately the real work here is healing. It's healing ourselves, healing others, healing the planet. That's the real work. You know, don't get too distracted by the shiny metaphysical experiences. Those are cool to have, but don't underestimate when, you know, you're doing the work and it doesn't feel magical or mystical. It is. And remember too, that when you do this as a job, when you do this as a way of life, when it's your worldview, when it's your lifestyle, it can sometimes kind of feel like the magic kind of goes out or fizzles out from it, because it becomes like your new normal, right? So don't underestimate what you're doing, and look for signs, look for synchronicities. You know, maybe don't chase them, but at the same time, you know, again, it's all about giving yourself the opportunity to be of service, to be helpful in with the spirit world. And then those types of profound things are gifts that they will give us as a reward for continuing this work, right? Good. Rebecca says, amazing. I love this topic, Leah says. Good. Okay. So no questions. All right. Well, I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. I will be back in next Monday. We're going to be, again, talking about we'll be talking more about like the aura. We'll be talking about what is an electromagnetic field, what is an aura, how does it exist in the real world, how does it exist in the astral realm, what kind of information can be located within that, what kind of information can you extract, and what kind of different specializations that you could do. Like there's psychic surgery, there's energy clearing, there's ancestral curse removal, there's communicating with ancestors and spirit guides and relaying information. So there's a lot that we can actually do within a person's aura. There's a lot of different things we can do, a lot of different things that we can affect on the astral realm, which will then again affect on the physical. So whatever we do in the astral lends itself to the physical. All right. So have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys next week.